All right, everybody, peace to the planet. You know what it is. It's Money Monday. And we're doing it on a Monday. I'm back, baby. The cold is still with me, but I'm almost past it. And thankfully, our good man David Frazee is patient with the sick and the infirm. David, welcome back to Bishop Chronicles, man. How you living today?
I'm doing great. Compassion for the sick and infirm, not the normal descriptor people give, but I guess it's true.
I am sick and infirm, and you are kind to me, so yes. Anyway, really good to see you. Getting really good feedback. I was just with one of my friends, Travis, the other day. Shout out to Clandestine Submissions, Jiu-Jitsu School, out in Maine. What's up, guys? And he was saying how much he really liked Money Mondays, how he was gaining a lot of wisdom and stuff from it. And he really appreciates it. And I get a lot of good, really good feedback. Now that we've gotten kind of out of the red zone into, the orange, yellow, and blue, and we're just starting to talk about real life stuff, guys, right? Like, how do we make sense out of it? Let's jump into some of these things that I'm starting to look at. What do we deal with in regards to like buying a car? To kind of like expand on some of our early stuff, because I think about buying a car, but then like one of my really good friends is really all about leasing. And I think I would rather, even though the rich dad, poor dad guy was a hustler, I do like the idea of just buying a used car that doesn't have payments. What are you thinking?
Yeah, so we talked a bit about this. It's total cost of ownership again. So you may not even need a car. Like a lot of people who live in urban areas with good public transportation, which arguably is not the San Francisco Bay.
Not in San Jose.
I'm thinking New York or Boston. I mean,
Boston's so good. Underrated. Theirs is great.
When I lived in Berlin for a year, you could to the minute get anywhere in Europe and know when you're going to arrive. Like plus, it was crazy how much infrastructure they have compared to us. But apparently, public transportation is a liberal conspiracy in the United States. So
the worst.
It's a separate topic.
The worst.
Nothing to do with what we're talking about, but you can Google this. But apparently, Los Angeles had one of the world's leading trolley and above ground train systems, and it was ripped up in the late 40s because the oil companies bought it up and just took it out of the ground.
How is that not shocking?
Maybe it was a car company. Don't quote me. Go look it up and get the actual fact.
Yeah.
But to sell more cars, they just destroyed it. In any event, so the first point is, do you actually need a car? But then conventional wisdom is buy something 2 to 3 years old, don't lease it, and just drive it into the ground.
Yeah.
But that said, I mean, as I mentioned last time, there are quirks today as this is being taped in early 2026 because of tariffs. We have and some tax credits. It's not as clear that math works as well. And I haven't remodeled it, but there are people who do this online. If you use Claude AI and give it all your parameters, it might be able to give you a good model of it. But, total cost of ownership, again, even if you buy something used, you may look like you're saving money, but you may spend more over time in terms of higher insurance rates. If it's a
fixing,
more expensive
it has
car,
little things with it.
Yeah. So the reliability is everything. It truly is. And I try and drive my cars 300,000 miles and put them into the ground. So I'd look at the repair history. If you're I wouldn't buy a car you're going to get rid of within 7 years. And I told the story of my daughter when she bought her Toyota Camry. It was over a $5,000 difference just going out to multiple dealers.
Yeah, and
asking them for literally the exact same car with the same specifications. So it's apples to apples. It's not like one had like the monkey fur seat covers and it was the same car. It was literally the same car. So, but I would just look at this and someone actually has been emailing me about looking at a car, and although interest rates are pretty high right now, they were able to get like a 1.49% financing deal. And they said, should I just put cash and pay for the thing? I can. And, you may be debt phobic and you may just want to own the thing outright. But honestly, if I could borrow 1.49% and pay it off over 7 years and invest the rest in the stock market, that's an easy math decision for me. But it's more than just math for some people. And that's actually one thing I should mention is, the common feedback point that I often get from people is just, I know mathematically that's the thing I'm supposed to do, but just complete safety means more to me.
Right.
There's a price for safety. There's a price for conservatism, not political conservatism. Well, that too, but, but mathematical conservatism. But if you're in a position you can make that choice, it is your choice and it's your money. But I want to get people to a place where you have the ability to make that choice, and most people are not. They're not even close.
That's the real golden moment. Now, what are your thoughts about insurance?
Yeah, you do need insurance. I mean, there are arguments that people make that insurance in all forms is a sucker's game. Otherwise, the insurance company wouldn't be profitable. But, in gambling, we talk about in poker, there's two things you should look at. There's expected value and risk of ruin. Meaning, if you could do this 10,000 times, what would you make? And then what's your chance you're going to go broke? And in life, you get one chance at everything, typically. So you don't get to live 10,000 lives. So if you get that long-term disability, if you have the rare genetic illness, if you get in a major car accident, or your house burns, I mean, that's the one shot you get. So over 10,000 instances, that won't happen that often, but it's going to happen potentially in your life. So, protect your assets, renters insurance, homeowners insurance, car insurance, typically required anyway. Health insurance, I know.
Business insurance.
Yeah. By the way, for those watching outside the United States, we are I think the only really industrial democracy that doesn't have national health care. So it's weird how much it affects and informs what goes on in this country, but you really need to cover it. Disability, like 60% of your earning power is a good target. You're much, much more likely to be disabled than you are to die. A lot of employers will offer that and people don't take it. There's esoteric things like long-term care. I don't know the economics of that one in particular. Yeah. I'm getting old. If maybe I should start thinking about that. And I'm a big fan of life insurance. And again, term insurance, I'll come back.
Term, that's what I got.
Yeah. You don't want to, if you have kids, you have obligations, you don't want to leave the family members with all the burdens that you have. So make sure they can go to college, pay that stuff off. They can live at least reasonably well until they get set in life.
Yep.
And, the thing about insurance, you need to pick a company that actually will pay claims. I use USAA, which is fantastic. They've never in my life given me trouble on anything. Now, it's a little more expensive, but I'm paying to know that my kids aren't going to have to go fight an insurance company in court to get the claim paid out.
Yeah.
And that said, I would also think about paying maybe higher deductibles for some things. That's what your emergency fund should be for, because that will dramatically lower your costs.
Smart. Yeah.
But you don't want to self-insure for life. I mean, not just life insurance, but life in general, because again, risk of ruin and expected value are two different concepts.
Totally.
And, on a business insurance, we could we should do something on business. There's everything from general commercial liability, employment liability, cybersecurity, directors and officer insurance, which I'm a fanatic for. If you actually have a venture funded startup, maybe a little beyond what we should talk about today, because that is a rabbit hole. Once you go into, it's hard to get out of, but you do need to insure, reasonable business things. And for companies where it's basically the founder, and if the founder dies, the company is probably going to die. You should also think of something called key man insurance, which is life insurance for the company. I mean, it's on you, but it goes to the company so that they can have a few $1 million to replace you.
I never heard of that before.
Oh, it's pretty common in venture-backed startups.
Really?
Your goal, by the way, I think I said this. If I repeat, I apologize. My kids say I tell the same stories, but I forget how I tell them to. So, but most people don't have an asset when they own a business. They have a very expensive hobby.
Right.
Because if they die today, the business is going to die.
Yep.
And your goal, if you want an asset, is to make it so that you can take off for 4 weeks to Botswana on that safari, and the business will just continue to operate without you. Because guess what? You can't sell the business if you're necessary for it.
It's true.
So it's not an asset.
It's true.
And again,
I agree.
Well, I'd love to get to business stuff down the road here once we get beyond sort of the basic financial security, because your ability to put your vision in the world is a really important part of wealth in my mind.
Now,
by the way, while I'm here, can I just talk about the universal or whole life, and then we can...
Yeah, please go.
Yeah, I don't mean to interrupt. I do that a lot because I get excited.
Me too. I'm
like a kid who just learned about dinosaurs, So what I will refer you to, this is the one I get the most hate email about over everything else. And it's mostly from people who sell insurance. And I did a program at my house once, and the boyfriend of one of the people attending actually sells this stuff. And he, in front of everyone, was trying to humiliate and embarrass me, which math is math. So I need not fear. But, look, if you invest in one of these, so universal or whole life, and there's different things they call it now because they're trying to stay one step ahead.
Right.
Basically, you get some guaranteed amount of money down the road and it's invested for you, and you still get some insurance. That the problem is the extra that you are paying if you invested will be worth so much more. So there's a great article by Jeremy Schneider. I mentioned him last week on Personal Finance Club. Like, I really like his stuff. I don't see him as a competitor. We're all on the same side. So please go check him out. I mean, use his stuff. It's actually really good. But he did a very extensive article on index universal life versus just having term insurance and putting the excess into the market. And if you put $200 a month over 40 years, here's the math. The universal life returns you $320,000. The index fund returns you $1.8 million.
What?
82% erosion.
$1.8 million?
1.8 million. 1.8. So it's 82% of your value gone. So how come there are big commissions for people who sell this? How come the insurance companies are going crazy trying to sell it? It's because they invest the money and pocket that themselves.
Right. They're doing what you're telling us to do right now.
Yeah, they're doing it for you and keeping the difference. So look, if you want to give me 1.8 million so I can give you 300, I'll do that deal all day long because that's an awesome deal. But why would they do it, and why are the commissions so big? It's because they're profiting. Term insurance, invest the rest. The only real argument for this, and this literally should be illegal, like this is capital S scam. Like I cannot get riled up enough about how awful this stuff is because so many people get roped into this. The only plausible argument is people wouldn't invest it anyway. So at least this is for savings. That's often an argument for buying a house, by the way. At least they're going to save it.
Yeah.
That's not really an argument. I mean, that's just lack of discipline and lack of systems.
Right.
So anyway, a little diatribe, because you're going to have your cousin's brother's uncle trying to sell you this crap at Thanksgiving and just walk away.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense.
I'm sorry. I interrupted you. I wanted to get that in because it's so common out there. And insurance brokers make a lot of money on this. And
it's crazy when insurance goes wrong, it's horrible. You know what I mean? For families, it's horrible.
Yeah.
Okay. So, everything's kind of weird in America right now on a bunch of levels. But especially the economy seems to be on quite a roller coaster. And not sure if we'll be getting off the roller coaster anytime soon. So does buying a house now make sense? And is there a bad time to buy a house? And if so, when is it?
Well, the answer to the last question is yes, but you won't know until it's too late. Which is, you don't want to buy at the top of the bubble, but
right.
The thing about bubbles is you don't know until they burst that they were a bubble. Unless, I mean, you kind of do know if you're looking at the right things, but most people aren't trained economists. And the other thing is, when you think you're at the top of the bubble, you're often not. Like I have someone I know really well who was telling me in 2012 to sell everything and put it in cash because everything, the Great Depression would look like child's play. And the market's up like 3 or 4 times since then. So that's really terrible advice. But again, one of the things I said at the beginning is negativity sells. You look smarter. It looks more sophisticated. And
it looks more conservative. It looks fiscally conservative.
Yeah, because being optimistic looks foolish, even when the math is there. But look, the reasons for buying a home are always the same. It's leverage, so I can put 20% down, sometimes less, and own the entire asset. So if I buy $1 million home, I put 200,000 down, it becomes a $2 million home. I only put 200,000 down for $1 million of appreciation. I mean, that's actually the real argument. As long as the tax code, you get interest deductibility. There's things you can do with a home you can't do if you rent. The tax code is a legalized form of punishing working class people.
Yeah, it's true.
Well, the working class people don't vote, and they have terrible lobbyists.
Yeah. That's a bad combo.
By the way, I'll come back to the home, but just as a side note, one of my kids' friends was mouthing off about being proud she does not vote. And she's like 25. And I said, 18 to 25-year-olds vote like 22, 25% of the time. You know who does show up? People over 50, like 90% show up and vote.
Yeah.
And so your vote doesn't count when you stay home. You may have funny tweets and you may have that wonderful meme that I laugh at.
Yeah, you might have that sarcastic zinger.
But you didn't show up. And so politics will continue to reflect who actually shows their ass up and votes. And this isn't falling in love where something has to be perfect. Oh, Bernie wasn't there, and the purity of everyone else isn't good enough. You know, this is like, it's like taking a bus. Your goal is just to get close to your destination. You know, you're not here to fall in love. You're not dating the person. You're not marrying them. You're just trying to get closer to your destination. And over time, it works when people actually show up. In any event, so if you want some of these things changed, like in the tax code, you have to vote.
You got to show up.
Because if you don't, guess who's deciding?
That makes total sense.
It's wealthy, older, whiter people, bluntly, who show up. And no, because we vote. And
yeah, it's accurate. It's accurate.
Look at who gets elected. Surprise. Anyway, so you know, over time, home prices do go up. Not like the stock market, but it's, you know, it's. You look, you're going to pay rent. So it's some markets, it's more expensive to rent. Some it's more expensive to buy. It really does kind of depend on your market. But it's for a lot of people, it's a good option. But I would look at the total cost of ownership. And a lot of people ignore things like property taxes, toilets, termites, I have an air conditioner that, I live in Vegas. That thing needs to be repaired before the summer starts, but it broke at the end of last season. So I got to get that repaired. The mortgage is your floor. That's the minimum you're going to pay. For rent, that's the maximum you're going to pay. And of course you need a down pay. But I own, a lot of people own. I think it makes sense if you're going to stay someplace for a while.
Right.
Because you're going to it's an asset you're going to have, and you will have something that will appreciate over time. But it's not the right answer for the family,
because things can get unstable.
It's not the right answer for everybody. There's nothing wrong with renting. And there's a lot of people who will tell you with great conviction and with a lot of math on their side, you should be a permanent renter. And what are the pros of that? That you just take it's the same as the universal life insurance argument, effectively. I mean, it's more sophisticated, but this is the one key argument, I think. Take the difference from the air conditioner costs and all the other things you have to do, put it in the stock market. Right. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah, but there's also some. This is a terrible story, maybe, but I don't know if I've told you this, but I was on the board of a company where we had two very, very wealthy people on the board, and they were fighting about whether to rent or buy a private plane. Mm-hmm. Both of which are stupid. Like that is a dumb. Right. It shouldn't have just been off the table. Yeah. And they were arguing and then, one went to go to the bathroom and the guy left, says, leasing does make more sense, but owning's more fun. So that's hella funny. It's your home and it's something you get to decorate the way you want and change the way you want, and you don't have to answer to anybody. And so there's something about the psychology of that just feels safe. And if you're going to be there 20, 30 years, it's probably almost always going to be the right decision. But again, and by the way, if you do buy at high rates like 6-7%, when they do go down, refinance. Right. Lock that in. Big deal. Yeah, that's a big deal. Now, what about wills and real estate planning? So like with me, like when I was married and we owned a home, we had a will, all this other stuff. Then we lost the home when everything got crazy. And I haven't owned a home since. So how much do I need a will for? And like, what about like estate planning if you don't have an estate? You know what I'm saying? Like, well, if you don't have much, it's not going to matter. I mean, the goal is just to avoid probate, which time and money, and it's a pain. Yeah. No, some things, by the way, don't go through probate, like designees on your retirement plans, designees on your life insurance, that goes directly to the beneficiary. Right. Okay. And so a lot of the estate stuff people want to sell you in terms of trust really isn't necessary, honestly, for most people. You don't have that many assets, and it's, and you have to change the names of the titles of everything, and all of the trusts. But, look, here's what I would say is, here's some important things people forget about in estate planning. You need a power of attorney and healthcare directive. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what is it you want to happen when you can't make your own health decisions? Do you not want certain kinds of heroic care at the end of life. Who's going to make financial decisions for you if you can't? Review your beneficiary designations on all accounts. And by the way, when you go through a divorce, that's really important because your ex may be the beneficiary on some of those things.
She will get nothing.
They'll just pay them out because that's their job. Like, make sure you check every life insurance policy and every account to know who's supposed to get that. Put everything where people can find it. Like, there's this, I've seen like people advertising death boxes, but that's a really good idea. You know, here's all my banks, here's all my passwords. Maybe the passwords is a little excessive because they can get the password reset with a court order or a proof of death. But
proof of power of attorney and stuff.
Here's all my accounts. Here's what they're for. Here's the people that know everything. Here's the attorney that helped me with the will. Here's the person has my medical records. All that kind of stuff you should just have there.
No, that's great. I have a friend who's done that really well already.
But here's why this matters.
Like them in that regard.
If you do the stuff I'm telling you, especially if you can start 20s, 30s, and even in the 40s, you can catch up.
Can I ask you really quick though? This is kind of a real estate question. Is probate only a nightmare if you're a homeowner? Is that what the thing is? Like, if you don't own a home, probate's not that big of a deal, right? Because you don't have the things like.
Well, for most people, that's almost all their wealth.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, right? So like, but I'm saying like, if you don't own a home, then probate's unlikely to be an issue, right?
Well, here's what I answer. If you do the things that I'm teaching you, you're going to need a will and some. Right. But for most Americans, the home is everything. That's all they have, honestly.
Yeah, that's real.
And I maybe we can wrap up at the end. I'd like to talk about how little we save as a country and why this truly matters.
Right.
You know, most people have almost nothing. And so the house is the retirement plan, whether they intended it to be that way or not. But if you do what I'm telling you, you're going to need to have someone smart look at some of this stuff because you don't want to put a burden on those you leave behind, and you don't want it taxed in certain ways. You know, one thing the Republican Party is very good at in the United States is language. So, you know, the death tax. Death tax. Oh my God, that's terrible. Which actually affects almost no one watching, and probably no one watching this because the amount you have to make is so high for inheritance tax. But you do want to make sure that if you create generational changing wealth, that it goes to your generations.
Yeah. No,
so
that's crucial.
And you don't want them on the eve of your death. You don't want them having to think about this stuff. Like, it should be fairly simple. This is a complicated subject, and I wouldn't call myself an expert. I just know enough to say, make sure you just deal with the basic things I've talked about. And if you're starting to get to a few $1 million, you probably should be thinking about this. But, you know, life insurance and the home are for most people the only things that really are materially moving. Like the bank accounts and stuff aren't material for most. They should be, but they're not.
Now, what do you feel about like the depth to which you should be helping like friends and family? Like, you do it. Do you have like a line in the sand for all situations, or just like let everybody survive it out? You know, like, what do you think?
Well, look, it's hard because you want to invest in people you love and care about. And if they help you become successful, it feels like a moral imperative. You want to help them in return. Mm-hmm. And as a side note, like in my venture capital fund, we have a number of NFL athletes who invested, which is not a relevant story here, but a good story. And one of the things we used to do for the guys is sort of be their investment reviewers, because like everyone they grew up with, man, I got this like fast food restaurant, or I got this like used car dealership, and will you invest in it? And you don't want to say no to the guy you grew up with in the neighborhood, but those are really crappy investments. And so they need someone else to kind of be the human shield to not look like a jerk to their childhood friend. But look, I jokingly said, but well, I guess I really wasn't joking. If you're giving money to friends and family, don't expect it back. But here's what I would say is, if someone wants to change their economic situation, help them do that. So this is a real story. So a friend of mine that I grew up with wanted to start a business and wanted me to put an investment in it. And I said, okay, so here's what you're going to do. First of all, you're going to watch all the financial literacy classes. And I want to know you have a plan in place so you don't get back in the same situation. Right. I want you to watch at least these 8 videos on starting a business that apply to small business. Because a lot of the venture stuff I teach is not really relevant to a small business, but much of it is.
Yeah.
And those things I wanted him to watch. And I said, look, if you do that, I will pay for your business insurance. Just as a birthday gift.
I'll back you. Yeah.
And I'll put some money in the form of a note that you'll pay back over time. I don't even want ownership. As long as I know you have the fundamentals and the knowledge and you're going to apply this discipline. And he didn't do it because he felt insulted. Like, as rich as you are, you should do this. And I was like, well, A, you don't know my situation. B, it's not that I don't have things to do with the money. Like, that's a scholarship for someone in a poor community. So it's not like I'm bathing in $100 bills in my bathtub. I'm not. Like, there's real purposes for that cash.
You're not Scrooge McDuck. Are you sure?
No, when I went to the bank, when I took the money out for the first,
Yeah.
Like that was a joke. Like, I'm going to go bathe in my bathtub, right? But what are you going to do with this money? It's like, the answer is not drugs, because that will get a call.
Yeah, it will not be used in drugs in Las Vegas.
Do not say that. Or if you say poker, they actually believe you here, which is one of the places you can say that. But what I would say, so if someone in your family is doing poorly, offer to buy
help them get the wisdom so that they're not doing poorly.
Watch these classes with them. Yeah. If they can't afford it, email me. I mean, the website has all the codes. But totally. if that's still not enough, drop me an email. I've never turned anyone away who wants to.
This I know is a fact.
Yeah.
This is a fact. He's telling the truth on this.
And so you say, look, if you go through this and put the plan together and follow all the steps, then I'm happy to give you a short-term loan or help you in these particular ways. Mm-hmm. But the way to help someone is to actually enable a career. Like, even my own sister, when she was, she worked for the state of Kansas, which had budget cuts all the time in their psychological services because they don't believe in, helping people's mental states, because that's, again, a liberal conspiracy.
Right.
All made up in people's heads.
I hate those liberal conspiracies.
And so she's like, I need something to do. And so I said, look, let's get you on private practice because you're a trained psychologist, and I'll get you on the insurance panel. I'll help set up your office and an offshore person to answer calls, help you get some business development going by going out and talking to people who could refer patients to you, rent a space for you. Like, let's actually build something that generates wealth, and you can triple your income. So if you're investing, invest in things that actually drive wealth.
Right.
Not just here's money to pay that credit card off, which may be what they need. And by the way, when someone's drowning, that's not the time to teach them how to swim, generally. But you don't want them to continue drowning.
Right.
The moment you're done. So you want to make their lives actually better. And, as an analog to this, like, one of the things I do in my own investing as a venture capitalist is, unless you're willing to go through and be trained and like watch the kinds of classes I have or something similar, I won't invest in you. Like, I'm not here for expensive education.
Right.
Like the lessons are expensive when it's my money. So I want you to know this stuff before I give it to you. So I'm not training you, at least on it. If you're going to make mistakes, don't make 1 through 100, make 101 to 200. Make the more esoteric ones.
Yeah. Have your foundation in order so we all know what's supposed to happen.
Yeah. But like, look, say I want to help you be better. I want to help you establish wealth and financial security. And then moving beyond that, how to create more income now that you're settled, and to do something in your employment that makes you happier and more fulfilled, so you're never back in the situation. I mean, really help. Giving someone money is actually sometimes the wrong thing, because you're just putting more, wood on the fire.
No, it makes total sense. Now, you have these 10 principles that you wanted to share, which I think are all really amazing. Let's kind of look at these 10 principles and break them down, man, because they're important things for us to have on deck.
Yeah, these are sort of a wrap up of the way in the classes I taped was just reviewing like the core things. If you just remember these 10 things, you'll be in good shape.
Yeah.
And, the first one was exponential thinking and compound interest matters. Like, the whole reason I got all those piles of money was to show you that growth isn't this, growth is this.
Yeah.
And I can show you with a calculator. I can show you with math and logarithms and exponents if you paid attention in school. I can do everything possible, but it never gets through until you see actual money. Yeah. Patience is rewarded. Most of the growth comes at the end. You have to just understand this is the way math works. If you get that one thing, suddenly you measure everything differently. Is
You know,
this
it's funny. It's funny you say that because back when I was chilling in the UK, I sent my friend Graham, who's a university professor, your program, and he sent me a message when I told him, "Oh, this is what I'm doing on Bishop Chronicles." You know, he sent me this message like, "Yo, his whole program changed my life. This is where I'm at right now. I'm getting ready to get married. I'm getting ready to buy a house." And he was like, me and my fiance used the whole Demystifying Wealth program to get everything set up. And he lives in the UK, totally different system, but he knew how to use the principles.
well, math is math
there.
everywhere, by the way. So
You know what I'm saying?
yeah, it doesn't change
like,
at national border.
Yo, like I was really hyped about that. You know what I'm saying? That was incredibly cool.
Well, if I could go back and I mean, I didn't understand this, by the way. I was, believe it or not, I was a state math champion, although Kansas, so not that impressive, but still, you know, I didn't even think this way about money when I was like in 19, 20, 21. I wish I had.
Yeah.
Like, to me, I was just surviving. And so I wasn't thinking longer term. And I don't want anyone to make that mistake.
So listen, I just pulled up his what do you call it? I want to read it. This is the message that he sent me, wholly unsolicited. This is just from him knowing that David was going to be on Bishop Chronicles. It's great you have David Frazee on your podcast. Please tell him he's helped me and my wife go from 15,000 pounds in debt, which would have been like what, like maybe almost like 25 G's maybe.
Yeah, reaching 2025.
Yeah. And financial illiteracy to a system building rewards and financial freedom. Thanks for sharing his course. I've passed the knowledge on and my spreadsheet to so many other people. He said that in November, December 23, he audited and categorized all the spending. In January to July of 2024, paid off all credit card debt. August to April 2025, saved for our wedding and our new house. And April to now, investing in the index funds with a 10-year plan. Like, that's what he said. You know what I'm saying? And that's my homie. You know what I'm saying?
That's what you're supposed
Shout out
to
to
do.
Graham, my guy. You know what I mean? But that's what can happen if you really follow the plan, right? That's what can happen if you really follow the plan. I'm just starting to start, but that's a real human being who, you know, just went and sat and stayed patient. And now he's getting married, out of debt, and moving towards a home ownership and everything else.
I love that story. I can I
And he's
feature
not
on the
alone.
website?
Like, he's not the only one. He's the most recent one.
Yeah.
Right. So it's important to note that, right?
Yeah,
but,
I have a lot of emails like that from people, and a lot of like people email me and just want to like have a quick call to say stuff like that. And
yeah, no, man, it's a real thing. And I just, you know, I'm saying that so that people understand that he's right. It's a patience game. It's not going to be a quick dopamine hit. It's not going to be you pulling up in the Lambo at the end of the year. It's going to take a minute, and there may be no Lambo, and you may not want one after you really learn how money works.
if you pull up in a Lamborghini, you haven't really learned my lessons, which is,
It's possible.
I mean,
that
well, no, if you haven't money,
understood.
hey, do what you want. But if that makes you happy, but to me, I look at that and say, what could they have done in the world to transform suffering?
No,
but,
man. But I wanted to read that, and it was a spontaneous thing because, you know, they know I'm biased because I've known you for so long and I like your program. They know you're biased because it's your program and you came up with it. But it's important to know that, you know, I keep trying to explain to people, just anytime I pitch you to a person and I talk about demystifying wealth, I talk about demystifying Silicon Valley, I'm always like, the thing is, it's not a hustle. And so that's why you have to pay attention. It's not like a scam where you get a thing. You're actually going to have to learn how the systems work. You're going to learn how debt works and things like that. And once you figure that out, you'll know how to move properly.
yeah, I mean, the only, that's all true. I mean, what I would also say is this is I'm biased toward this because this is just core principles. And I mean, but even if you don't like me, like if watching me grate your ear and you
It really grinds my gears.
stomach the idea of listening to me, I have a resources page, resources on Demystifying Wealth, where I say, if you don't listen to this, go listen to these other people. Go buy Jeremy's class.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Read The
resources
Simple
page is
Path
there.
to Wealth by Collins. Read, I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. And I
Yeah.
talk about what the issues I have with each, but if it's there, I believe in it. And I think you could just follow it. So I would love to help you in your journey, but at the end of the day, I don't care where you get this information as long as you
Right.
do the right thing.
Right.
And there is not a debate seriously about the core principles. Like, this is the right answer. Math
Right.
is math. Index funds are index funds. There's no dispute about that. There's lots of flavors. Is it Spanish Portuguese or continental Portuguese, or sorry, Brazilian Portuguese or continental? But it's still the same thing. So I just want people to do this.
Totally.
And I'm trying to make it accessible in a way that speaks
And
to.
now's the time because stuff is crazy. So
Yeah.
since it's crazy and you already don't know what's going on, you might as well start with learning what's going on now and how you can recover. Let's continue with the principles, man. I'm sorry to hijack.
No, that's actually segue to number 2, which is time horizon matters. Is just do it. Obviously, I've said this a few times. What's the best time to plant a tree? 50 years ago. What's the second best time? Today.
Yeah.
So the longer you have, the greater the benefit you're going to get. I remember I showed you in the beginning that if you invested from, say, 18 to 25 and never did it again, you'd have more money.
Yeah.
Did it starting at 26 onward, who put much, much more in because you missed the time value. Cash has a negative value if you leave it in cash because of inflation.
Yeah.
The other reason why time horizon matters is that the things that produce the highest returns also are the most volatile or unpredictable in the short term. So you always are trading safety for return. With
Right.
risk comes reward, right?
Right.
And so you have to think about, when do I need this money? And actually, it's principle number 3, if I could just go right there, which is divide the money by when you need it. So if you need money in the next 1 to 5 years, high yield savings account or a money market account that uses government bonds. And
Okay.
they're I can quibble over which is better, but both are fine.
No, I hear you. Totally.
And medium term, like 6 to 10, 6 to 15 years, you could put 50-50 stocks and bonds, or 75-25, or put in a target date index fund for like 10 or 15 years out. And then anything beyond that, just invest like crazy. And maybe I would say even 10 years, but 15 is a little more comfortable for people.
Yeah.
Put it all in either a target date index fund or use some of the house formulas we had. Like
Yeah.
I'm a 100% equity guy that some people don't find that comfortable. So maybe you put 10% in bonds if you want to be Warren Buffett, or 25% if you're like Collins.
Right.
But, short term, safe, medium term, a little bit of both, and the long term, go for it. Because you want the return. You will trade the risk because you have the time to trade the risk.
You have the time. Totally. And so what's the next one again?
You need fortitude is number 4, which is things are going to drop. You're going to want to vomit. You're going to
Things
want
get
to
scary, man. Like, this is a really volatile time, and it's easy to want to sit still, right? Like what is it, fight, flight, or freeze kind of a thing.
Yeah.
That happens a lot economically in my own brain. That's the definition of my life, is just freezing, because I'm always like, okay, let me just spend it. Or, you know what I mean? Or I hold on to it in an insignificant way that doesn't benefit me. Like,
look, the S&P, the NASDAQ, the Dow Jones all dropped 50% in like 08.
Yeah.
From October 2007 to March 2009. If you'd invested starting then, like my former paralegal and her husband, he'd be pretty pissed off. And they were.
Yeah.
But if you stuck with it, like I showed you, they made us, 6 times if they just stuck with it.
Huge.
And so you just need fortitude. And it's a hard thing to tell someone when there's blood in the streets. Hey, be an optimist. It's going to work out. Just stupid. But you just need to stick with it. So don't change course just because the completely predicted, correction comes, or the complete recession comes. That's going to happen. It is part of why you get the returns.
Yeah.
And what I'll say this is, if the market's crashing, continue buying because things are on sale. Stock is the one thing we don't want to buy when it's on sale.
That's real. Oh man,
Think about
so real.
So quick story. I don't know if you remember J.C. Penney, which was
I do.
big. So they brought in this new CEO who ultimately almost destroyed the company. But here's
Totally.
but here's why. He said, I don't want to do all the key. So what they would do before, like every retailers will mark it up and discount it. So here's 40% off, 10% off, 20% off your coupon. And your brain's like, yeah. Where do I press that like lever, like the rat for cocaine water? He got rid of that and said, we're just gonna give you everyday low day pricing. Everyday low pricing.
And that's what tanked them, huh?
And no one wanted to do it. They lost customers. They lost $1 billion.
Like, because he killed the culture, right? Like
but what's stupid is people would rather have it jacked up and then discount do the game because what they were really buying wasn't low prices. They were buying the dopamine.
Yeah, and it was the culture.
Yeah,
they killed the culture.
And if you look at the history of Temu in China, like he studied Amazon and he said, Bezos was great about logistics. I'm going to gamify it. So people want to keep coming and buying more.
It's so crazy how that happened. Oh my God.
So anyway, we want to buy things on sale in every other aspect of life. Like even if it's mathematically a dumb thing to do.
It's true.
Like, like Black Friday, everything goes up and then it's discounted down. Like it was just the same price like a month ago. But stock is the one exception. We don't want to buy it when it's on sale. And that's a mistake. That is a mistake.
Man. All right, let's continue. So after fortitude.
You need money to invest is principle 5, obviously. So all of the fun stuff cannot happen in the red zone because you do not have surplus income.
Right.
And remember, one of the earliest stories I told you was this book, The Millionaire Next Door, where they studied millionaires and they expected to all be doctors and lawyers and professional athletes. And it turns out the biggest predictor wasn't high earning, although that does help. It was saving power. Like two school teachers driving that same Honda Civic could be worth millions.
Making it happen.
30% of their money into retirement and saving and real estate or whatever they wanted to invest in.
Yeah.
And I also told you that I used to be a major law firm partner where the average, which means half or above, or roughly, that's actually technically median, but half made $1.3 million and everyone was broke by August. Crazy. I had to take loans out. Because I just spent it. And so many professional athletes are in bankruptcy a few years after they stopped playing.
You know what, man? You know what? I'm going to say this right now because I have been meaning to say this. I know you used to do this stuff for like NFL players and I think some basketball players or whatever. I think your program should be mandatory for rappers when they sign a deal.
Okay.
Like I'm so serious.
I'm down.
Like there's a couple labels, but there's one here in the Bay Area that's a gigantic. It's called Empire, and they have all these different artists. And like, my dream has been to take you to Empire. There's a guy named Ghazi. He like runs the whole thing. I was like, yo, if I can introduce David to Ghazi so that when people sign deals, part of the deal would be that they had to go through your program, or any label would do that to show the artist like, yo, dude, this may be the only hit that you have.
Yeah.
And if you do it, here's how you can live. Dude, I think that would be so dope. And so I haven't reached out to Ghazi because I don't know him, but I think I know some people that know him. And I was thinking about reaching out to like some labels to do that, or even movie houses. So if an independent filmmaker gets picked up, you know what I mean? That, okay, look, you may not get a sequel. So let's take this and do X. I think that would be so good for all of these for all of the artistic spaces where money is not guaranteed to be consistent.
Yeah, I mean, 2 thoughts on that. One is, I'm not going to name drop, but some of these guys, like I have weird white guy street cred in certain aspects of the hip hop community, which I do. I'm not, and some of the, which is, and the funny thing is, if I actually heard their music, I wouldn't even know it was them. And by the way, that came about because I'm not going to mention the name, because a fairly major person when I was a lawyer had me help advise them on his agreement with MySpace. That's how old that was.
Yeah.
On technology. And I didn't, I was like, I never watched the show. I didn't know who he was. And everyone in my office was like, oh my God, you know who just walked in? And I'm like, yeah, he wanted to do some investing.
And I'm telling you guys right now, I know who he's talking about. And you all would be like jaw dropped.
But I think in a weird way, he respects me more because I don't know much about.
He does. I believe that 100%.
So, but that aside, and I'm a technology lawyer and VC by training, so it's weird to have credibility. And fashion was the other place because I did some work for like Donna Karan before she killed herself and some other people. And so once you get in there, everyone just wants you because an innovative approach to a non-innovative industry is always interesting to people.
Right.
But
Of course.
but the real point here, the problem with people who make it big on something always believe that's what it's going to be.
Yeah.
And it is not just artistic people, whether it's I got the movie script sold or are you going to be Matt Damon and Ben Affleck where Good Will Hunting is the keyboard or the key to a whole career, or is it a one-hit wonder and no one remembers you, but you're a footnote to history? And so you increase your lifestyle. You don't plan. You don't say, I need to assume this is a one-off and plan for the worst, which also, by the way, gives you the time and freedom to be more creative because now you're not stressed about money.
Yeah.
And athletes always feel like they're invulnerable, but
they do. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? That's such a big deal, man.
And this
sometimes
is
when I think about this in my brain, though, it reminds me of, I don't know if you saw the Dave Chappelle skit about Wu-Tang Financial. Did you ever see that?
I have not.
I'll send it to you.
But
basically, they had RZA and GZA giving financial advice in the skit. It was hilarious. But I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
Well, but I think that this is a big deal. You know what I mean? Because, and the reason I'm bringing this up very specific as it sits adjacent to hip hop is for this. The Bay Area is a hotbed for independent rap music success. We have probably one of the biggest regions where independent rappers can have their own lives and not even be national hits because the Bay Area will sustain them or Cali will sustain them, but then they may not make it to Ohio or New York or Florida, right?
Well,
and so I want those guys to know what you teach so that they don't feel like they have to stay hot forever and can like give their kids the life that they really hope to. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and some of the business stuff would be relevant for them too.
Yeah.
Because a lot of what the tax code could do for them if they were aware of it.
Yeah.
And some accountants do know this stuff, by the way. It's not like I'm the only guy in the world that knows these things, quite the opposite. But what I would say is on average, when I look at small businesses and how they've been advised, it's not very good. I mean, a lot of things we take for granted in the venture capital world, they've never heard of.
Period.
Or they don't really understand.
Period.
So, how do we, it's not just how to be more innovative. It's like even from a just business structure standpoint, the understanding is fairly outdated. Like your CPA probably hasn't paid attention to the cutting edge of stuff in 15 years. So you're getting advice from like 2005, 2010 or earlier.
Oh, snap.
So
about that time, we got to start shutting it down. Where were we?
Yeah, let me go with the last here. So habits and principles matter, which is automate this stuff. Otherwise, it won't.
Yeah, you talk about that a lot because it's important.
Yeah. Your friends matter. So life partner, friends, children, get everyone who's a positive influence together and do this with them. Yeah. That's the way to do this. So, the email you just read where he sat down with his wife and talk through this is one of the greatest things you can do. This is the strategy we will do together. Principle 8, taxes matter.
I'm going to do this with my lady now.
You should. It's the way to make sure and also it'll suss out quickly if you're unaligned on money scripts.
Right.
Like if your life partner is like, I need extravagant $5,000 bags to feel loved, you might want to run.
Yeah, she ain't like that. Hey.
Yeah, so that's me. But some people get off that, and that's not me. But because the mismatch of spending scripts and habits and aspirations is one of the great.
It ruins things, my man.
Greatest things that will destroy you. And here's the trick. It doesn't just make your life hard when you're together. When that divorce happens and she gets half your stuff, you're still the ATM machine.
Brother, don't get me started.
You're still the ATM machine because you
don't get me started. I'm trying not to be triggered.
Sorry, man. Number 8 is taxes matter. And I want you to think in post-tax dollars because even decisions, do I put this in a Roth? Do I put this in something that's deductible? That's about, is my tax, should I pay the few $1,000s in taxes today or do I want to pay it later? What is this? What is this net to me when it matters? Because you're trying to think about what's my most effective use of money that I get to keep. So if you had $1 million, you get tax-free versus 1.2, you're paying 40% on. That's an easy math problem. So think of post-tax. Number 9 is slow and steady wins the race. I never liked the tortoise and the hare story because the answer is the hare should just ran the whole thing through and then messed around, because that's actually a stupid story. But here it actually works. Boring, easy to execute, consistency over time will happen. And the reason for that is, unlike a race, which you can run faster, math just takes time.
Yeah, you just gotta let it ride.
Time. Like, so you
gotta let it ride.
Give yourself the time.
Yeah.
And the final point here on the 10, that I have one or two to wrap up, is make the money work for you, which is your time buys income. Your income buys assets. Assets buy more assets. And they produce income. You want your money working around the clock, even while you're sleeping. Eventually, you don't need income if you do this the right way.
Yeah.
And although I make fun of Rich Dad Poor Dad because it is kind of scammy and there's some actually bad advice in it, the core principle, which is you buy assets, is a good one.
Yeah.
Is buy things that produce value. And, when you get to a certain point, some people even have the mantra, which I'm fine with, my assets and my investment returns pay for everything.
Yeah. That's actually.
So I don't have to work anymore.
Yep.
And,
man.
I've said this a few times. I just want to say it again. You don't have to be a business owner or entrepreneur to get rich. You really don't. Again, I keep going back to school teachers. You can have a modest income as long as it's enough to have surplus. Because again, if you don't make enough, you're going to be stressed. But if you have surplus, you can invest and you can do this.
Yeah, man.
You don't need an advisor. Like, save that money. If you get to like maybe $10 million and maybe perhaps, but by then I still think you don't. Like, I don't. I used to do this parlor game where, people from like, JP Morgan private bank would try and get my business and say, okay, here's my attributes. Here's where the income sources. Here's the assets. If you come up with a plan that beats mine, you're hired. And no one even came close, because they're all selling me this crap that I didn't need. That was actually going to drain my money for fees. Like, even paying 1% on a modest, portfolio could cost you $1 million or $2 million by the time you retire, because you're giving that compounding to somebody else. Like, don't do that.
Well, cool, man. I want to thank you for another amazing show. Thank all you guys for listening. Shout out to my homeboy Graham, in the UK. And shout out to all of the new listeners, new subscribers, and new paid subscribers. All right. I appreciate all of you. David, thank you so much. And just so you guys know, this is not the last Money Monday. We have more stuff planned, and we can't wait to share with you. All right. So, David, thanks again. Be sure to go to Demystifying Wealth. Be sure to go to Demystifying Silicon Valley. This is Bishop Chronicles. Stay stoic. Stay focused. We'll see you soon.